Hi guys, Jordan from B&P Campers. Just going to do a handover video on this new Venture Nu Rio. So we'll start just on this near side. So we've got your habitation door just here with your step which comes in and out with the switch just here. Working really nicely. Your freshwater inlet is this one just here at the very back of the vehicle on the near side. And your two vents just there are for your fridge. You shouldn't actually have to do anything with those really, so you know, I'll show you how to work it on the inside, but just showing you that they're there and they're, you know, where they should be. Bike rack, it's just there as well. We haven't actually completed the habitation check just yet, so things like this here, this part here will be replaced because it needs to, you know, it doesn't catch very well. But this is your sort of habitation door catch there. Your diesel filling point is this one just here, so you need your ignition key to get that open. Boiler vent is this one just here, so if you had your boiler lit up on gas, you should be able to feel hot air coming out through either side of this top part of the vent here. Inside the passenger door, there's not much to show you apart from the obvious bits and pieces, except from this, which is your bonnet release. So lift that little cap up there and then you can release the bonnet from there. And under the bonnet, you've got your power assisted steering. So your power steering fluid sits inside this reservoir just here. Minimum and maximum line at the very bottom, and you can just see it's just at the very top of it there. Brake fluid attached to the servo just down the back, just sits over there. This is your sort of ABS pump and bits and pieces, all to do with your braking. Engine oil dipstick is this yellow one just here at the front, and your engine oil, you know, inlet point is this one just here. Engine coolant is this one over here on the left. You can see there, just perfect line between minimum and maximum, and your washer fluid sits in there. The engine battery on these cabs sits just underneath the floor down here, so you see there's a little bit there. Basically push this bit forward and lift it up, and then you get to the engine battery just there, nice and easily. So if you did need to jump start the vehicle or anything like that, that's where you go for that kind of thing. 6-speed manual gearbox. All of your standard sort of Citroen, Peugeot stereo system is all there. You know, all of your sort of fan settings, heater settings, all that sort of stuff is just here, but you know, you'd be able to work that out pretty simple. Hazard lights work from that button just there, and you can see there 39,600 miles. Cruise control, actually it's not cruise control, sorry, that's all to do with your stereo again. So if you see there, it says source on it. I don't know if you can see it on the video or not, but source, and then, you know, skip, all that sort of stuff's just there. So that's all to do with your radio. Got a bit confused. Sometimes the cruise control ones are there as well. So, right. You've also got your sort of code there for your, well, your, what's it called? The weights of the vehicle, so your axle weights and things like that. And underneath that, I wouldn't be surprised if there's also a paint code as well. So if you needed any of that sort of stuff, just inside the driver's door. This vent down here, which says Truma on it, is for your heating. So if you had your heating on gas, which is the only way it worked actually, but if you had your heating on, you'd be able to feel hot air coming out through the bottom of this vent just here, because there's a little hole at the bottom. So that proves to you that it's definitely working, although like I said, I'll show you how to use everything on the inside in a minute. Hookup point, it's that one there. So if you did have access to a hookup, it does make a big difference. As soon as you plug a hookup into the vehicle, the leisure battery's being charged up and all that sort of thing. So it's always useful to have that if you have access to one. Gas locker. So you see there, you've got one 6-kilo propane bottle in here. Anti-clockwise around to the left turns the gas bottle on. Clockwise around to the right turns it off. We've got 2021 as a date on this pigtail hose, and so, you know, you've got till 26 to replace that is. But yeah, basically just make sure you turn this off before you start driving. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. That's about it really. Down here we've got your fresh and your wastewater drains. You can see they're both in the closed position at the moment, but if you opened up either of those two, you drain out both tanks. So if you did want to drain out your wastewater, it's the grey one, and the fresh is the blue. Your toilet flush fluid goes inside this one, so that's your pre-mixed pink fluid. That goes in there, and then you know, if you run out, if I was you, I'd put in around sort of 4 or 5 litres if you can. That locks up just like that. Toilet cassette is in the locker underneath here, and so it's all pretty straightforward stuff really. The only thing you really need to know that you might not is this little puller up here. You see this little sort of grey puller there? That's how you drain out your flush fluid if you did want to. But you know, you don't really need to be honest. It's only if it starts coming through really muddy and horrible. You can just pop that bung out, drain it out, and then fill it back up again. But otherwise you just sort of keep filling it up. The toilet cassette itself comes out just by lifting up on this little yellow tab at the bottom. And then once that comes out, all you have to remember really is that you drain it out from here, and that when you're actually physically draining it out, you should be holding down the little yellow button there. And that's about it really. It's as simple as it gets on the cassettes really. That's locked. Alright, so I'll show you around the inside. Right, so the inside of the vehicle is nice and simple, but there are quite a few bits and pieces that I need to show you, purely for the fact that it's got so much stuff on it really. You know, for a small compact vehicle, these new Ventures are really quite sort of got lots of extras and bits and pieces, so I just want to run you through those. So you got your 4-burner hob up here and grill underneath. You've got an ignition just here which does all 4 burners and the grill at the same time. The grill one is this one over here on the very right hand side, and then there's a little diagram on each of these telling you exactly which one it does. So I'll show you how it works. You light it up just like any household gas burner. But the only difference is really, well, it's not a difference actually, your household one has it as well, but I'll just explain to you, you've got what's called a thermocouple on any gas appliance in a motorhome. And basically what it does is, it's the little prong of metal at the back just here, by the way. What it does is basically it senses burning gas. So if you light any one of these up, in fact any gas appliance in the entire van has got them, light them up, and if you heard that little click just there, that's the thermocouple just stopping the gas coming through. All right, so if you turn the dial off, that's going to stop the gas coming through via the gas valve. But now that I've just turned it there, but there's still no gas coming through, that's because the thermocouple has stopped any gas coming through. So until I relight it, the gas won't come through. All right, so basically what that means is I can leave it on like this, and if I had the door open and the wind blew that flame out, you know, the gas would carry on coming through, wouldn't it? Because there's gas coming through there, but it's burning. All right, so if the wind blew it out, the gas would carry on coming through, but after about 10 seconds or so, you'd hear that click and the gas would stop, because the thermocouple recognises that there's just unburnt gas coming through rather than burnt gas coming through, if that makes sense. So basically what it means is that you can't fill the van up with unburnt, just, you know, LPG. So that's what they're there for. They will all be checked as part of every habitation check. Got a nice little light here as well. Right, so it's a bit of a funny way to do things, but I'll just show you through the control panel now. So the main on and off switch is this one over here on the top right. You've then got light switches. So this one is sometimes for an awning light, but I'm not sure whether or not this will have it. No, so pop these two on here basically when you come in and just want the lights on. And then you've got your water pump switch. All right, so at the moment, I've actually not got enough water in here to test it and show you it working properly. And what happens is when you haven't got enough water in the tank, when you turn it on, the pump will just constantly run. And so, well, because it works on pressure basically. So if it can't get the pressure, the pump will just run and run and run and run until you turn it off. So you need to make sure that you've got enough water in the tank, definitely. Until you've done that, like I said, you won't be able to use anything properly really. So make sure that you've got some water in the tank. The way to check that, and you can see, by the way, there's a little light flashing in there, and that light there means that your freshwater tank is too empty to actually work. Okay, so if I click this very bottom button here, straight away it shows that's your freshwater level. Press it again and it goes off. All right, so literally that's just showing you your freshwater level, so there's nothing in it at all at the moment, and so that's why the pump's running on and won't get the pressure. The next one up is your battery levels. So that's your leisure battery level, and that is your engine battery level. So 12.2, 12.4, both very, very good resting battery rates. And in fact, it's not even really a resting battery rate because I've got the, you know, the lights on, I've got all sorts on. So your leisure battery, bottom of the caravan on it, is the one that basically powers up everything in the back end of the vehicle, like your lights and your ignition. And obviously the vehicle battery is the one that starts the engine up. So that's that. You then got temperature inside and out. So I think that's outside and that's inside. But yeah, that's the control panel really. It's a CBE control panel. Nice and simple. That's pretty much what they use in all of the new Ventures really. But yeah, so like I said, make sure that you've got enough water in your freshwater tank to fill it up there and get your pump to actual proper pressure. But once you've done that, the first thing you want to do really is pop your pump on and come over to the sink here and just pull the hot water through. If the pump runs and the water's not coming through, it just means really that your boiler isn't quite full up yet. So you just have to wait for a little bit, and then it will just basically eventually start coming through nice and clear. Until the water starts coming through nice and clear here at the hot side, you shouldn't really be lighting up your boiler whatsoever because there won't be enough water in it. As soon as that water comes through nice and clear there, you can do whatever you like, but it's always a good tip. You know, I always tell people to do that, because if you light the boiler up and it's empty, it's the same as turning the kettle on with no water in it. You know, it will just get way too hot inside and eventually do some damage. So just a little tip, make sure that you do that. But like I said, at the moment there's not enough water in it to show you, so that's another thing you have to look out for. If you've not got enough water in the tank, then you know you can't really do much, so it's always quite helpful to have a little bit of water in the tank. So you've got gas isolators down here, so you can see they've got little words next to them telling you exactly what they're for. So all you have to do to actually isolate them is just turn these 90 degrees so that they're facing away from the direction of the pipe. So you can see they're all in line with the pipe now because they're going up. So if I turned any of these 90 degrees, it would be shutting it off. So basically, if you thought there was an issue, if you were worried that one of the hobs was leaking or something like that, leaking gas, you can just isolate that entire unit there just by turning it 90 degrees, and then you can sort of carry on with your holiday and worry about it afterwards. So that's why they're there. It's also there for, you know, for people like us. If we're going to fit something or replace something, it means we can just isolate the gas just there. So the next thing here is your fridge. So it's a standard sized fridge here. You've got a little freezer box up here on the right hand side, and the rest of it is just normal fridge. You can lock and unlock it from here, and also I will show you as well, you see they've got two little holes just here. So if I close it properly, that's locked up now on the furthest hole, and that's completely sealed and airtight. But if I open that up again by pressing the little green button in, I can also close it on the first one, and that leaves a very, very small gap going around the fridge. Don't know if you can see it. Yeah. So that leaves a very small gap going around the fridge. So that is how you're supposed to leave the fridges if you're going to leave the fridge for, or leave the van, sorry, for a couple of weeks or so. If there's going to be nothing in the fridge whatsoever, nothing that you need to keep cold, and you're going to be leaving the van, if you don't do that, you'd be amazed how bad the smell is that comes out of the fridge, even when there's nothing in it. After a few weeks or a couple of months or so of not using it, if you don't leave it on that little latch part, you know, it's unbelievable how bad they smell. So make sure that you do that. Otherwise, if you want to actually get the fridge cold, you need to make sure that it's locked over in that tight position all the way over. So to get the fridge to work, at the moment I've got it lit up on gas, and you can tell that by the fact that my ignition switch is on but it's not actually clicking, and also that I've got the gas flame symbol in line with the little triangle. So let me turn the fridge off. Okay, so basically what happened there is I turned the gas off, so the flame went out, thermocouple recognised that there's no more flame anymore, and then kicked the igniter back in. And then I turned the igniter off. Okay, so you need to do that same thing but just in reverse. So igniter on, gas in and round to the left. Igniter stops straight away because the thermocouple recognises that there's burning gas there now because it lit up. Let go of it. That's it. Leave it alone. So after 3 or 4 hours or so, this fridge will be completely cold if you leave it on gas like that. It'll work exactly the same way if you have your hookup plugged into the vehicle. You can turn it on via this green switch just here, which you can see there, the little symbol underneath it shows you a hookup lead. And then basically you can just leave that alone. So this will light up green if it was working and the hookup's plugged in. And like I said, you just literally use it exactly the same way as the gas basically, but all you have to do is just turn it on. If the hookup's not plugged in, that will not do anything, okay? That's only 240 volt, and that's only when your hookup's plugged in. And the last one, your 12 volt one, the red one here, is basically the one that you use it on once you've pre-cooled the fridge. That's how you use it when your engine's running. Okay, so the reason you have to do that, the reason you have to pre-cool it, is because the 12 volt element just there isn't powerful enough to get this whole fridge cold on its own. So if you turn that on and start driving and it's not already cold inside, it won't be cold when you get to wherever you're going. It doesn't matter how long you're driving for, it won't change really. It's, you know, it might get a little bit cooler, but it's just not powerful enough to do it properly. So you need to pre-cool it. So I always advise you, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but if you were going to go away tomorrow morning, I would perhaps either light it up on gas or switch it on the mains the night before you go away, and then the morning of you going away, you can then just literally turn these ones off, whichever one you use, and just turn the 12 volt on, start the engine up, and when you get to where you're going, the fridge will still be nice and cold inside. And then obviously turn your 12 volt off and go back onto one of these two. Okay, so 12 volt when the engine's running, mains electric when your mains is plugged in, and gas. Okay, and also the reason why you can't use these two when you're driving is because obviously you can't leave your gas on when you're driving. Well, you can, but you definitely shouldn't. So you can't use that, and obviously you can't have a hookup plugged into the vehicle when you're driving either, because that would be a bit of a mess. So, so that's that. Gas off, igniter off, and also just really try not to leave that igniter running. The amount of times I've seen it before, because they're quite quiet really, the amount of times I've seen it before where people just turn up and their igniter's just been on for a week because they've forgotten to turn it off. Make sure that you turn that off, because that will just ruin your leisure battery after a few days. Okay, cutlery drawer up here, and a little bit of space to get down there so that you can do bits and pieces to your tap and your sink if you ever needed to. So that's all of that down there. You have got, just up here, you have got a mains point and a 12 volt point. So if you wanted anything to be plugged in, this is a nice place to do it, just up here. And then just loads of storage at the top, basically. In the bathroom, again, it's all pretty simple stuff. Being the Rio, you have got the shower, and obviously hot water as well, so you can have a nice hot shower rather than a cold shower. The sink in here, they're nice and simple, but they are a little bit strange in the fact that they don't have a drain on the actual sink. So if I just explain this to you really quickly, because it's simple when you know why. You literally just fill this up, use the tap as much as you like. It doesn't matter how much you fill this up really, obviously, apart from it, overflowing or whatever, but fill it up as much as you like, and then all you have to do is pop that away like that and just slowly lift this up. And basically what will happen is all the water will go down this gap down here, and there's two little drain holes in each corner. And so basically the water goes down there, drains out, and just goes straight to your waste tank anyway. So lift it up very slowly, let the water drain down, and then just pop it up. And that's that. The toilet, they don't get much easier than this really. Push the button down for your flush. So that flush puts the flush fluid around, and then you've got a little grey lever down here. Open that up, that drains it into the cassette, and then close it back over, and that closes that flap back over. So you need to make sure that you close that flap back over, definitely 100%. If you don't close that flap back over, two things will happen. One, you'll get the worst smell coming into the vehicle, because that flap, obviously it opens up and lets you drop things into the cassette, but it also then opens the seal between the toilet and the van. So if you leave that open, it's just gonna, you know, it's horrible. So close that over whenever you're finished, as soon as you can. And also, if you leave it in the open position, the cassette is locked in place, so you will not be able to take it out from outside. Well, you can, but you will break it when you pull it out. So make sure that you close that over whenever you're finished. Shower literally just works like any household shower. I don't need to show you how to use that, but basically all you need to know is that you've got the shower curtain that runs around here, and your floor mat which comes up obviously, and your drain down there as well. So it's all in there as you would expect. The wardrobe here is just loads of storage really. Sometimes the wardrobes in some motorhomes have got all the electrics and things like that in there, but this one hasn't. All the electrics in the Rios sit just down here underneath this seat behind the passenger. But the next thing I'll show you is your sort of heating and hot water controls. So over here on the right hand side behind the driver's seat, you've got your Trumatic E, which is your heating. And so basically it's as simple as this. You just go up 1 or up 2 just for a fan. All right, so that's not heating whatsoever. If you go up, it's literally just a fan pumping out through these little vents. Okay, no heating at all if you go up. Back down to the middle, turns it off. Down 1 is basically small flame, and down 2 is big flame. So essentially how powerful you want the heating to work. And the fan is a little bit more powerful as well, I think. But basically, if you go down 1 or 2, the gas flame will just light up inside the Propex heater, well, Truma heater, and that's about it. It'll just light up, and then you'll get your heating coming through to the vents. I can hear right now that it's just lit up. Some of these heaters are really noisy, but this one is quite quiet, I can hear already. And so essentially you just leave that alone, and after about 5 or 10 minutes or so, you'll have hot air coming out through this vent here. And because it's quite a small van and a really, really good solid heating system, these vans get warm so quickly. You know, you'd be surprised how little time it takes to actually warm this place up. Obviously as well, being a proper brand, you know, they are really well insulated as well. So all the behind the walls there, you can hear how solid that is. There's nothing, you know, I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but basically it's just really, really well insulated between here and the outside of the vehicle, all the way around. And so if you heat this place up, it's going to hold the heat in quite well as well. So turning that off is just turning the outside ring back to the little 0, and that is it. The dial in the middle is basically just how fast you want the fan to run, essentially, or just basically how much heating do you want. Just if you're really, really cold, put it on full blast. If you're not too bad, just, you know. But you'll get to know that really quickly, and realise quite how simple it is. I also quite like that they put them just here, rather than like on the front here, because it means that you can't accidentally knock it, and you also, it's sort of like out the way. So, but yeah, that's that. So that's your heating. Heating's on the off side behind the driver's seat, and anything to do with your boiler is on the near side behind your passenger seat. So what I'm going to do actually, so I'm just going to get rid of these for a sec, just so I can show you under here properly. But essentially, if you have a hookup plugged into the vehicle, like I said already, a couple of things will happen automatically. Your battery charger, which is down here, will come on straight away and start charging up your leisure battery. I'll just show you that. So your battery charger is this one here on the left hand side, which says GS on it. You've then got your 240 volt trip switches there in the middle, and your 12 volt fuses. Okay, so all really nice and simple stuff there. When you plug your hookup into the vehicle, if you don't want to use your gas to heat the van up, to heat the hot water up, sorry, hot water, then you can switch this button on down here, and then essentially the hookup just heats up a main, right, let me start again, this sounds really confusing. When you plug the hookup into the vehicle, if you want to heat the water up via the mains element inside the boiler, you can turn this button on here, okay? So basically the boiler, which is that there, has got a mains element inside of it as well as a gas burner. So if you turn that button on just there with the mains hookup plugged in, the water inside of it will heat up via the electric element. If you didn't have electric plugged in and your gas is switched on, you can then also come up here, same sort of idea, just turn the entire outside ring down to the gas flame symbol and then set your temperature between 30 and 70 degrees. And that's it, you just leave it alone. And again, it's sort of about half an hour or so on the hot water side of things. Just leave that alone, and then by the time you get there, half an hour or so, you'll have hot water coming through your taps, shower, everywhere basically. The only thing I want to show you on the boiler, I'll just switch that off now because like I said, I haven't got a huge amount of water in it. The only thing I want to show you with the boiler is that you've got this little yellow tap down here, and so that's your boiler drain. If you needed to drain the boiler out, which I'll tell you for why you would want to do that in a minute, but if you needed to drain it out, then that's how you do that. You lift it up vertical rather than horizontal how it is now. So the only reason you'd ever need to drain the boiler out really is if you're going to leave the vehicle in storage over winter. If it's going to get towards sort of like 0 degrees, that sort of number, drain the boiler out if you're not going to be using it. If it's -degrees outside, but you're going to be in the vehicle, sort of, you know, keeping it warm, and you're going to be in here, it's not a problem because then none of the water inside there will get cold enough to freeze. But if you're leaving it completely locked up in storage and it's going to be really, really cold, you need to make sure that you drain that out, as well as drain your freshwater and wastewater tanks as well. If you don't drain the water out inside this boiler, you can imagine already that because it's a pressurized system, it's going to be about 10 litres or so in there when it's fully, full up. And what will happen is, as you probably know, water expands when it freezes. So all of the pipes and all of the bits and pieces inside the boiler and around the boiler and around the entire van actually, if you don't drain them out, it'll freeze up, expand and just break everything. You know, you have leaks all over the place and it'll be a real mess. So the only way that you can stop that from happening is literally, and it's not hard, you know, like I said, you lift up that little lever down there, drain the boiler out, go to the off side of the vehicle at the back and just drain both your tanks out. That's all you have to do. But you know, if you don't do that, then essentially you'll find that there's leaks when you come to using it again. Bits and pieces will be leaking, you know, here, there and everywhere. And it's just a bit of a mess really. I mean, we can sort it, but just don't get to that point. The only other thing I want to show you really in this locker is this box down here. If you take the lid off of this, I can't do it if I'm holding this up, but if you take the lid off, you'll get your leisure battery is just there. So if you did want to get to that for any reason, you can do. But like I said to you, I mean, I've shown you already, the battery voltage in there is fantastic anyway. So, you know, the battery itself is absolutely fine. Other than that, you know, loads of storage in these vans. Again, for the size of van that they are, so that one needs to be held up a little bit better. For the size of vehicle that they are, there's loads and loads of storage. I've got a whole box here full of paperwork for the vehicle, and as you probably know, we have already had the vehicle in the past, so we have actually habitation checked this one ourselves in the past, and so we know the vehicle, we know it's a good one. But yeah, so if there's anything else you think I've missed out or anything you want going over again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon to collect your vehicle. Thanks very much.